All right, a good Tior, Daf Lamed Vav. We're going to pick it up on Lamed Hey Amud Bey's second wide line. So the Mishnah had said that all lavim noshim are chayivin, except for the three that the Mishnah listed, which were Bal Takif, Bal Tashchis, and Bal Tamil Mesim. So the Gemara, Isi Tani, Isi said, you know what, there's a fourth. Af Bal Yikarchu Noshim Peturais. Noshim are not chayiv in the lav to not make a karcha, this bald spot, that the Goyim would do as a response to some sort of tsar. My time into Isi. What's the pshat why Isi said Noshim should be putter? L'chayr, it's a lav that should be chayiv like everybody else. And the Gemara, for the rest of the daf, is going to give us three mahalchim. So the first one is Darish Hachi. He learns the following way from the pasuk Banim Atem Lashem Alekechem, that you are banim. Leis is going to do v'leis simu karcha beinechem lemeis. So don't do a gedida. We're used to leis is going to do from the Gemara in Yavamis saying that we shouldn't make agudas. But the pasuk shot in the pasuk is talking about this gedida, some gash in a person's body. V'leis simu karcha, don't make a bald spot between your eyes. We'll see what that means. Ki am kadosh ata laHashem elekecha, because you're a holy nation. So the first part of the pasuk says banim atem banim v'le benois lekarcha. That's going on the karcha. On that lav is dafka banim and not benois. So atam lekarcha ayena ela legedida. Who says it's going on the karcha part? Maybe it's going on the first thing, which is the gedida. Kishu aimer ki am kadosh ata laHashem elekecha, because the end of the pasuk fears ice that you are all from the am kadosh hare gedida amur. That's going on the gedida. That's not going on the lois is going to do. Then ma ani makayim banim v'le benois lekarcha. And this that we're medayik dafka banim lebanis is only going on the karcha portion. So for the Gemara, well, how do you know it works that way? Ma royas l'rabis sagedida ulohitzias karcha. And the explanation is because marba aniyas sagedida, we're going to include noshim in the lav of gedida sheyeshna b'makom sayer v'shalei b'makom sayer, because the gedida can be on anywhere in the body. So there's more opportunity for the yisr. It makes more sense that would be b'chlal. The women would be b'chlal that as well. Umaytzi aniyas karcha, but we're going to be mamayat noshim from the lav of loy karchu, because that is she'ena ela b'makom sayer, only where is a hairy part of the body that you can rip out the hair. Maybe the banim is mamayit even the gedida. And this that we have a riboy at the end to be inclusive, to say anybody's part of the am kadosh, that's not talking about karcha or gedida. It's besrita hu kasev. It's talking about scratching, which isn't, even though it's not in the pasuk, but Rashi says it's very similar. It's a reference to the pasuk that's by the kayin lo yisra to sarates. But maybe that's when the Torah is saying you should aser the srita even for men and women. So for the Gemara, kasaver isi srita ugedida, moving over to Amin Aleph, achasi. It's all the same thing, and therefore you wouldn't need a separate mucker, because it's all one din. Okay, so that's all shot number one. That we're mamayit from the banim v'le banais. Abaya Omer, no, hainu time of isi. You know what the mucker for isi is? Why we're mamayit the bal karcha? The Gomer, karcha mi b'nei arayin. We're learning a gzeira shava from the b'nei aron v'le b'nei aron, just like he did in yesterday's daf. He learned the gzeira shava. So malala noshim petures afkan noshim petures. For the Gemara, this is all going to be a very similar Gemara structure as we had yesterday. If you, Abaya, are assuming that the Bnei Aaron v'le Bnei Aaron is going on all the inyanim in the parsha of the Kehanim in Parsha Zemar, so the Nishta Kromine, then the Torah can be quiet from this Gzeira Shava. You don't even need it. V'teisi b'kal v'chaymer. You have a pasha to kal v'chaymer. V'anamino ma Kehanim sheribohen hakosav mitzvahs yiseres. We know by Kehanim there are so many extra mitzvahs, so it's more chomer by Kehanim. And still yet we say Bnei Aaron v'le Bnei Aaron. We have a miyut, only male Kehanim and not the female Kehanim. So Yisrael le kol shekain. So if the pasuk in Parshas Emor is going to be mayat the kohenes, so for sure a regular woman who's a Yisraelis is going to be potter. So the Gemara says he loved Gzeir Shava. Had it not been for this Gzeir Shava of karcha hava amina hifsaka inyan, because lamaisa there's lots of different other inyanim that are going on before you come to that karcha pasuk. So you need the Gzeir Shava to connect the beginning to the end to say that it's dafka b'nei Aaron v'le b'nei Aaron. So hashanami name hifsaka inyan. Maybe we should taka say that the Torah is changing subjects. It's hifsaka inyan, and therefore the Gzeir Shava is not needed for this. Now, and if you're going to say, well, what am I using the Gzeir Shava for? No, I'll use it for another halacha. For the following brisa that says, Lo yekarchu, the Kohanim shouldn't make this bald spot. If you make 4 or 5 bald spots, lo yehei chayev ela achas. Let's say you have this kind of cream that will make your hair fall out. You put it on the tip of all your fingers and you put that on your head. So one could argue that I'm only doing one maisa of the karcha. Talmud lemer karcha lechayev kol achas v'achas. So there's a chiddush akra that you're chayev for each location on the scalp that you go ahead and take your hair out. B'reisham ma Talmud lemer. What do we learn from the word b'reisham? Lefish nemer is going to do v'loisasimu karcha bein einechem lameis, dafka between your eyes. You shouldn't do so. Yachol lo yechayev ela al bein einayim, dafka between the eyes. So minayin l'rabis kol reish. How do you know that anywhere on the head is also going to be usher? Talmud lemer b'reisham lechayev al reish ke bein einayim ve'einli ela kahanim. And I only know that this pasuk is talking about dafka kayanim. Shuri b'hen hakosav mitzvahs because we have lots of extra mitzvahs by kayanim, so therefore they're more machmer, and therefore I understand. But Yisrael minon, how do you know that regular Yisrael, who's not a kohen, is also usher to make a bald spot on his head. So the Brisa, Nemer kan karcha, v'nemer lalon karcha, ma kan chayev al kol karcha v'karcha, v'chayev al reish k'benu inayim, af lalon chayev al kol karcha v'karcha, v'chayev al reish k'benu inayim. Also, ma lalon al ameis, dafka, you're doing it for a dead body. That's why you're tearing your hair out, because of the anguish on the dead body. Af kan al hameis. So therefore, that's also when you're going to have the Isser. So the Gzeira Shava is very needed, Zok the Gemara, because I'll need it to tell you these halachas. That's how the Bryce is using karcha karcha. So frek the Gemara, if you're telling me the Gzeira Shava is telling these halachas in Cain, nichtav kra kerach. Zok, this is going to be explaining Abaya now. You could already have the Gzeira Shava to tell me these halachas without being saying karcha with a hey. You could have just said kerach. My karcha shmas minotarti. Zok Abaya, you're going to have two dinim that are going to come from this. Number one, that it's not going to be hifzaka inyan, and number two is going to be these halachas. Now, Rava Omer, the third pshat, it's not going to be from Banim. It's not going to be from the Gzeira Shava, but you know why EC holds that women are not going to be chayav in Bal Karcha? Hainu taimid EC diyolav bein einechem and mitfilin. He learns it from tefillin. Malala nashim peturais, afkan nashim peturais. The expression of bein einechem exists both by Karcha and by tefillin. So Zok EC, okay, so women are putter from tefillin, so they're also going to be putter for this lav to not make the Karcha. But Rava my Taiva Kabaya. Why didn't Rava want to learn like Kabaya? Because karcha lemashmalei, the extra hay wasn't significant enough to make the drasha. The Abaya my Taiva Rava. Why didn't Abaya like Rava to say we learn from tefillin? Because Amar Lach tefillin gufayu mehacha gamerla. We need tefillin to be learned from karcha. Well, what are we learning from karcha? Malahalon makom sha'isen karcha begoiv hashel reish. Afkan makam hanacha begoiv hareish. There's a very important halacha we learn from karcha to tefillin. That's where do I put my tefillin? You don't put it between your eyes like the tzedukim would do. We would put it on our hairline, on our head. That's where you have the isser of to not make a karcha. Ubein la'abaya, ubein la'rava, these two second and third ideas. Hi banim atem, my darshibe, because they don't use the first suggestion the Gemara made for Isis Makar of banim atem. So what are they doing with that? So mi boy lilichetanya for this machlekes of Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, because the pasuk says banim atem la'Hashem alekeichem bizman sha'atem noyegim meaning banim atem kurim banim. When you act like banim, then you blind banim. Ein atem noyegim minig banim, but if you don't act like banim le'aleinu, ein atem kuruyim banim. Div Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda is very tough here and says you're only banim if you act like a ben. But if le'aleinu a yid would go off the derech, then he's no longer banim. But Rav Meir is much more forgiving because benkach atem kuruyim banim. You were always considered banim. Shenamar banim schalim hema. These are foolish children. That's how he touches. That's the touch of schalim. So the Aimer banim loy uman bam, and these banim who were not loyal, they weren't uman. The Aimer Zera Merayim Banim Mashchisim. They were evil. They acted badly. So in all these psukim, these four different makayers that Rav Meir brings were called banim despite the fact that we're doing averos. Now, why did Rav Meir need all these different psukim? Why couldn't you just be happy after that first time we brought a pasuk from Yirmiyah, a pasuk in Yirmiyahu? Then maybe you'll say that dafka these schalim, they're foolish, so that's when they're called banim. But kiles behu hemnusayu le mikri banai. But if they're mamish not going to be loyal, then in Chanami maybe they won't be called banim. So tashma v'aymer banim leuman bam. Chitema kiles behu hemnusa hu dekara banim. They'll still be called banim even though they don't have their loyalty. Aber ki pochel avodas kechavim. They mamish do avodas zara le mikri banim. Then I might think they're not going to be considered banim anymore. Tashma v'aymer zera merayim banim mashchisim. So you still see they're called banim even though they did avodas zara. V'chitema banim mashchisim hu demikru. Aber banim malya le mikru. Maybe they're not proper banim. Tashma v'aymer v'hay b'makam asher yeomer lehem loyami atem. So you see they're proper banim even though they stray. So Rav Meir, who has all these makairos, is giving us chizik, especially the day after Rosh Hashanah. We blind banim even if we strayed. But lamaisa, we don't lose the shame banim. There seems to be a nafkamina lahalacha whether you're called banim or not. The Rashba in the Tshuva says that even someone who Nebuch went and was married and became a Christian, he still gives off a tumas mace as a Jewish body. However, the Ramban seems to argue with that shita of the Rambam. Moving right along, Zok the Mishnah. Hasmichais, the smicha that you do by karbonas, vatnufais, and waving the carbon, v'hahagoshais, or bringing the carbon mincha closer to the mizbeach, v'hakmitzais, the kmitza on the carbon mincha, or v'haktarais, or burning the actual karbonas on the mizbeach, v'hamalikais, or doing malika on the oifais, v'hakabolas, or actually being makabel the dam, v'hazois, or sprinkling the dam. Nayagin ba'anoshim v'loy b'anoshim. This is dafka, a male activity. This is only for men. Chutz mi mincha saita unazir, except for the women who have to bring their own carbon mincha for a saita, Saita or Nazira, Shehain Meinifais, because then they actually do the tenufa for those mitzvahs. Dr. Gemara, Smichais, Tichsiv Daber El B'nei Yisrael V'Samach. So B'nei Yisrael Samchin, V'ein B'nei Yisrael Samchais. So only the men, not the women. Tenufa is because Daber El B'nei Yisrael V'heinif. So B'nei Yisrael Meinifin, V'ein B'nei Yisrael Meinifais. Hagasha is bringing it close to the Mizbeach, is also only for the men. Tichsiv V'zais Teiras HaMincha, Hakri V'yisa B'nei Aharon, V'lei B'nei Aharon. Kimitza is also only for the men. Tichsiv V'aviel B'nei Aharon, V'komatz. So it sounds like B'nei Aharon, V'lei B'nei Aharon. Taisus wants to know why all these things need to have Makaris. L'chera, why aren't they mitzvahs? Why aren't they just considered mitzvahs asay shazman grama that nashim berpaturas? Because you can't do these avodas at night. So l'chera, they're all man gramas. Taisus answers because it's not just simply that they're not mechuyev; they're not allowed to do it. It's usher. Right? We talked beforehand about a woman, if she wants to, she can pick up a lulav. It's not usher for her; it's just she's not mechuyev to. The Ritva interestingly says that the only time we have a patur of man grama is by a chayiv gomer. These are not chayivais gomer all. So just don't bring the carbon. So that's why you wouldn't be able to apply the klal of man grama anyway. Haketiris, the actual burning of the carbon, is also only done by the men. Dechsiv, v'iktiroisai b'nei Aaron, v'lei b'nei Aaron. Hamalikais, the malika that you do to the bird, cutting it with your fingernail. Dechsiv, umalak v'hiktir, the kain should do the malika, and they should burn it. So iskish malika lahaktara. So we say that the malika is also puzzle if it's done by the woman. Hakabolais, be makabel adam, dechsiv v'hekrivu b'nei Aharon, v'yomer mar, turning over, v'hekrivu zu Kabbalah Saddam. That is a reference to the actual Kabbalah and Stavka for the Bnei Aaron and not the Bnei Aaron. The Hazais, the sprinkling has to be done by the males. Hazah dehecha, what kind of sprinkling are we talking about? Idipara, if we're talking about a para duma, then even regular Kaihanim can't do it because Elazar Ksivba, it has to be done by the Kayan Gadol. Elazar, who was ultimately the Kayan Gadol, so it wouldn't even be kosher for a regular male. And Idifnim, if we're talking about the sprinkling that's done inside the Beis HaMikdash, also that has to be done by the Kayan Gadol because HaKayan HaMashiach kasav ba. So Ela Hazah de Ben Eif. We must be talking about the sprinkling dafka for Eifais. De Asya Bakal V'chaimer be Ben Tzayin. We learn from a Kal V'chaimer from Ben Tzayin, which is a carbon of sheep. Uma Ben Tzayin shalai kava like Kayan l'shchitasai. Regular by a Ben Tzayin, the Torah does not require a Kayan to do the shchita because it's ksher bizarre, right? Shchita is ksher bizarre. So kava like Kayan lahazasai. But still the Torah went out of its way and said, you know who has to do the hazah? It's got to be a kayan. So ben Eif shekava like kayan l'malikasai. You can't say the shechita is kosher bizarre by malika. That has to be done by a kayan. The Torah spoke out that you have to do that with a kayan. So you know didn't she yikvulei lahazah? So must be that a male kayan has to do the hazah, and therefore we see that women can't do hazah for the bird. And the Mishnah said, Chutz mincha saita unazira. That's the one exception, that the woman can do the tenufa. So Amar le Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yoshia didare. Rabbi Eliezer said to Rabbi Yoshia of that dar, because there was multiple Rabbi Yoshias. Le teisiv akarech ad amritli lahashmaita. Don't even sit down until you explain this to me. Minayin lemincha saita shetuna tenufa. How do you know that it needs to have the tenufa? So, what do you mean? Begufaksiv. It's written in the pasuk that you need to have the tenufa. V'heinif is mincha. No, Ella, what was the question? Tenufa, but ba'ila minalan. How do you know that the mincha of the saita needs to be done by the actual owner, which in this case is the saita? So for the Gemara, because asya yad mishlamim, we learned it from a carbon shlamim. Ksiv hacha v'lakacha kain miado isha v'ksiv hasam yadav tiviena. So makan kayin. Af lahalan kayin, malalan bailim, afkan bailim. So haketzad, how is it done? Kayin machnes yoda tachas yad bailim umein. The kayin puts his hand underneath the hand of the bailim, in this case would be the woman, and it will work. That's considered the bailim being done with the kayin. Of course, Taisus and Saita asks the Kiddushin Daf test, how in the world is not a problem of negia here, of the kayin touching the woman's hand? Ayin sham. Ashkachan Saita. Okay, that explains Saita, but Nazir min nolan. So asya kaf mi Saita. We learn it from Saita. And we'll stop here and pick up in Mirza Hashem tomorrow.